जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारे। यमुना तीरा वनचारे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारे। यमुना तीरा वनचारे। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। शेर नाम संकीर्तन की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। जय श्री निताय गौरचंद्र भगवान की। श्रील प्रभुपाद की। Hare Krishna, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 20. अन्योन्यम आसित संग उत्तम श्लोक चेतसाम कौरवेन्द्र पुरास्त्रीणां सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः अन्योन्यम् आसित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः अन्योन्यम् आसित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः अन्योन्यमासित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् अन्योन्यमासित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः अन्योन्यमासित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः अन्योन्यमासित् संजल्पः उत्तम श्लोकचेतसाम् कौरवेन्द्र पुरस्त्रीणाम् सर्वश्रुति मनोहरः. Word to word meaning. Anyonyam, among each other. Asit, there was. Sanjalpa, talking. Uttama shloka, the supreme, who is praised by selected poetry. Chetasam, of those whose hearts are absorbed in that way. Kauravendra, the king of the Kurus. Pura, capital. Strinam, all the ladies. Sarva, all. Shruti, the Vedas. Manaharaha, attractive to the mind. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is sung in select poetry, the ladies on the roofs of all the houses of Hastinapur began to talk of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that in all the Vedic literatures, the goal is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Factually, the glories of the Lord are depicted in such literature as the Vedas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And in the Bhagavatam, they are specifically mentioned in respect to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, while the ladies on the tops of the houses in the capital of the kings of the Kuru dynasty were talking about the Lord, their talk was more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. Anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti Mantra. There are songs of Thakur Narottam Das, one of the Acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, composed in simple Bengali language. But Thakur Vishwanath Chakravarti, another very learned Acharya of the same Sampradaya, has approved the songs by Thakur Narottam Das to be as good as Vedic mantras. And this is so because of the subject matter. The language is immaterial, but the subject matter is important. The ladies, who were all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord, developed the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by the grace of the Lord. And therefore, although such ladies might not have been very learned scholars in Sanskrit or otherwise, still whatever they spoke was more attractive than the Vedic hymns. The Vedic hymns in the Upanishads are sometimes indirectly directed to the Supreme Lord, but the talks of the ladies were directly spoken of the Lord, and thus they were more pleasing to the heart. The ladies' talks appeared to be more valuable than the learned Brahmana's benedictions. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri vṛṣākapim Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarvrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I would like to welcome all the devotees for today's morning Bhagavatam class discussion. I would like to seek blessings of all the devotees so that I try to speak something on this exalted subject matter. And whatever I speak will stick to knowledge and parampara and be pleasing to all the devotees, Lord, and for my self-purification. So this chapter is divided into 4 sections. So the first section was after King Yudhishthir, he was consoled by Bhishma Dev in the previous chapter. And here there is description of kingdom of Yudhishthir Maharaj in the first 6 verses. And then next till the 14th verse, there is discussion on intensity of Krishna's attractive influence. And then there is discussion on the etiquettes of send-off, like the devotees of Hastinapur are seeing of Krishna going back to Dwarka after a long stay there. So there was elaborate discussion on what all activities happened on his send-off. And then finally, today we are starting with the last section of this chapter, which is discussions amongst the ladies of Hastinapur. And this is the first verse. So first line of the purport is, in the Bhagavad Gita it is said that in all the Vedic literatures, the goal is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. So we know the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedesya sarvair ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So it says, so Lord Krishna says that through all the Vedas I am to be known. So here this chapter, this verse specifically highlights 2 themes that I could pick up. One is poetry, and second one is how to gain wisdom, Vedic wisdom specifically. So the second verse of first chapter glorifies Bhagavatam. No? Dharma projita kaitavatra parama nirmatsaranam satam vedya vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayan mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamanikrite kim va parerishvaraha Sadyardaya varuddhate atra kritavis shushrushibis tatshanat. So this verse says how Bhagavatam, even in the purport, the second line, it says that there are many other literatures like Vedas, Ramayana and Mahabharata which speaks about Lord. But Bhagavatam specifically glorifies the Supreme Lord, and all the subject matter is sticking to glorification of Supreme Lord. So here in this verse it mentions that anyone who hears the transcendental subject matter in relation to the Lord, his heart is purified instantly. So that's the benediction of hearing Bhagavatam. So moving to the theme. So there could be a normal understanding of gaining knowledge in this world is through some good karma. Someone is born with a high intellect in a family. Maybe the father and mother are highly intelligent, and then the child born is intelligent. Or maybe through past karma, the child is born intelligent. And then the understanding of gaining knowledge is going to a reputed school, studying under good teachers, studying good books, and then clearing the exams and moving ahead. And then when one masters quote unquote material knowledge in certain very specific field, one gains a good status in the society. And obviously in engineering we would ask people, why have you come here? So they would say, I need a job, basically I need to earn money. So we'll gain a status in society, a nice house, friends, and all that stuff. But here, as per this verse, Neya, or ideally knowledge, and Vijnana, Jnana and Vijnana, means attain that knowledge which can make us really successful. So material knowledge is equally important so that we survive and sustain in this material world. However, knowledge that Prabhupada translates here is Vedic wisdom in this verse. And one of the points which came in the purport is the ladies who were all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord developed the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by the grace of the Lord. So it says that knowledge is revealed by the Lord rather than with one's own endeavors when one tries to learn. So specifically with Vedic wisdom, it's not only by one's endeavor one can obviously make an attempt to understand. But without the grace of a spiritual master, without the grace of Supreme Lord, one just cannot understand who Krishna is. So that's why there are so many scholars we see who may know all the shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, but they might not be chanting even one round of Hare Krishna, or they might not be worshipping Krishna as a person. It's like that. So we chant this prayer every day. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So by the grace of Guru, one can understand one's original position as spirit soul, and That's how it dispels our ignorance, that I am this material body, and from where the whole material world and our whole material existence starts. So by the grace of Guru, one can understand about soul and one can understand about the Supreme Soul, Krishna. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam prutti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Next, 11th verse, he says, Tesham evana kampartam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. So Krishna says that this knowledge is revealed by him to a sincere practitioner or a sincere devotee. So when one surrenders to a guru, and guru being external manifestation of the Lord, Chaitya Guru, the Paramatma in the heart, he manifests as spiritual master, and then he removes the ignorance. Devi esha gunamayi mama maya durataya mam eva prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. So this ignorance that we are covered over, just by taking shelter of the Lord, with the help of a spiritual master, one can overcome or one can uncover this cover of ignorance that is there. So again, in understanding Vedic knowledge, it's not just knowing the 10 incarnations, or in school we would have this multiple choice questions, MCQs. We solve some 10 questions and then we score 10 on 10. But in Vedic wisdom, it doesn't work like that. We know some few facts here and there, and that's sufficient. It's about spiritual realization. So this verse we know, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastine Sunichayava Pakyacha Pandita Samadarshina. So after gaining this knowledge about Lord, one needs to become Samadarshina, or equal in one's vision. So by gaining this knowledge, one needs to come to a platform where one can see all living entities as equal on the platform of soul, and one is able to have vision of Supreme Lord. So that's the purpose of knowledge. So Krishna is everywhere, he is in everyone's heart, and is equal to everyone. So to understand the knowledge that I am spirit soul, Krishna is the Supreme Soul, and I need to surrender to him. So that's the purpose of knowledge. The highest realization would be when one is able to realize or experience the pastimes of the Lord, along with his concert and cowherd friends in the land of Vrindavan. Now one could do that even on the platform of mind or intelligence, but here it talks about having full realization of those experiences, and not just an imagination of how things would be, or understanding things on an intellectual platform. So how does one understand, how does one gain knowledge? So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Madchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nitya tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So when devotees come together and they chant and discuss and glorify the pastimes of the Lord, that's how they relish knowledge about Lord, and that's how they inculcate knowledge in one another. So here in this verse also, we have this word anyonyam. So the ladies, they were discussing amongst each other. So Krishna is very pleased when devotees come together and glorify his pastimes, his qualities, and and the knowledge that he gives in Bhagavad Gita. So this is the clue to sadhu sangha. When devotees they come together, what activities they do. No? So they engage themselves in chanting and glorifying the Supreme Lord. So the other word that comes in the verse is uttama shloka. So uttama means that which raises you above from ignorance. No? Tama means ignorance and ut means that which pulls you out or raises, and shloka. So Lord is glorified through choice poetry. No? Verses or very selective songs like that. So now here Prabhupada is mentioning one point in the purport. There are songs of Thakur Narottam Das, one of the acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, composed in simple Bengali language. So the language is immaterial, but the subject matter is important. So while glorifying the Lord, one could use any language, like Krishna understands language of the birds, language of the bees, no? And he reciprocates with that. So we know there are so many saints who have glorified Lord in the regional languages. No? Like recently we had this class about pastimes of Tukaram Maharaj. So he has written everything in the old Marathi language, which was like 400 years back, no? Or Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Like that, in each region we find devotees glorifying the Lord with songs. No? Like you have songs by Purandar Das and Kanak Bhatt in Kannada. No? You have descriptions by Pundanam, who was a devotee in Kerala. So those are in local Malayalam language, no? Narayaniyam, which is basically Bhagavatam. It's written in a local vernacular language, like that. So the language is immaterial when it comes to glorifying the Supreme Lord. No? And Krishna understands each and every language. So while I was going through this point, I was thinking like every ISKCON temple, they have the morning Bhagavatam class in their local language. So Krishna as the deity is listening to Bhagavatam classes in those local languages. Like Mayapur, we have it in Bengali. In the south, in Tirupati, we may have it in Telugu, and like that. So he's listening to those classes in those vernacular languages. Right? And then obviously we have a list of Vaishnava Acharyas in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Jayadev Goswami, many others. Of course, Jayadev Goswami writes in Sanskrit. Many others who are writing in local Bengali language. And then we know how the Vaishnava songs, they're written in very simple language. They happen to be a postgraduate study in the school of Vaishnavism. Like, and they are beyond or higher in their level as compared to Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. Right. So one of the 26 qualities of a devotee is Kavi. So we see like during Vyas Puja or many other occasions, devotees write poems, like Shwetadipuru had composed some songs. So the nice thing is it doesn't require expertise in terms of knowledge of the language. Like you may talk about figures of speech, whether he has added a proper rhyme scheme, whether there is rhythm there, there is simile, metaphors, onomatopoeia, and all that stuff. So the technicalities one may not be able to implement while writing poetry. But one of the 26 qualities of a devotee is Kavi. So with time, as one practices bhakti, it naturally comes out. So I was hearing one class by one Prabhupada disciple, and uh, this disciple was mentioning that he happened to hear, uh, come across one article by one author, and this author was highlighting how the times have changed, saying like the the degree of people engaging in illicit sex in the modern times is huge. So he was mourning over that, and there is no chastity preserved up till the time of marriage. So basically, he was trying to highlight a point there, like that was his analysis, no, based on some historical examples and references. Like those who are able to maintain their chastity up till the point of marriage, no, and they are connected to someone. So the time period between their practice of detachment and the sexual activity, there is intense expression of love through poetry, art, like that. So this proper disciple was extrapolating that and saying like many centuries ago or in the bygone days, devotees who practiced such high level of purity, sexual purity, what would be their level of composing of poems and all. No? So we see in Shadagoswami Ashtakam. No? हे राधे व्रज देविके चललिते हे नंद सोनो कुता श्री गोवर्धन कल्प पाद पतले कालिंदी वने कुता. So this disciple is trying to extrapolate, like with that level of purity, what kind of expressions would come in the form of art or poetry. And that's how we have so much of poetry and art forms. And then again, some more extrapolation further into the lives of the gopis. How much intense love they had for Krishna, and that they would express in the form of dance, in the form of songs. And we know the highest expression that we have in Bhagavatam is the Gopi Gita. And even there is various meters for each of the verses, and so many technicalities that they have naturally brought out, like that. There's one point I was remembering. Yeah. So one point which came in the purport was the talks of these ladies of Hastinapur was very pleasing to the Lord as compared to Vedic hymns. So like Krishna would love to hear slangs or galis from the gopis, and that was much more pleasing to him than any of the scriptural messages that or any of the scriptures, like that. So my understanding is there is intense love there, and because there is love, it's very pleasing to Krishna. We have this we have this as a part of the song. दुर्योधन का भोग न खाओ, रू का साग विदुर घर खाओ, ऐसे प्रेम पुजारी राधे श्याम श्याम श्याम. So Krishna is not hungry for food, but hungry for love. So when he went to house of Vidura, and Vidurani is feeding him peels of banana, so he's eating that. But when Duryodhana made an elaborate arrangement for him, with all the royal treatment, he simply neglected that. He didn't even pay any heed to it. It was a huge insult for Duryodhana, like that. So for him, these discussions are much more pleasing because love is there. So when we join together in singing about Krishna, just like the ladies are doing here, no, we would steal minds of each other, and all the more, no, it would steal mind of Krishna. So the last word in the verse which comes is manoharaha. No. Generally people like to hear about themselves, no? Even if it is a nasty stuff, no, something negative, still we are eager to hear that. So Krishna, he is also eager to hear about himself. So whenever we are glorifying or talking about him, he is eager to hear that. And in Brahma Samhita we have this Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bhiti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisham Tanumapurete Govindamadi Puruṣam Tamaham Bhajami. So where it says that even if one chants name of Krishna in a joking way or mocking or making fun of Krishna, and still Krishna takes it seriously. No? Even if for musical entertainment someone tries to chant the names of Lord, still Krishna takes it seriously and he showers his mercy. No? So if you want to attain the highest process and the highest or the ultimate success in life, the only thing that we need to do is gather together and talk about Krishna. No? On the other hand, what are we hearing, what are we discussing makes our consciousness. Just like what we eat, no, becomes our consciousness. So there is nutrition in the food, there is excretion, and the third one is consciousness, like who prepares it, and no, that's how devotees are careful. We do not take anything that is not offered to Krishna and that which is not prepared by devotees of Krishna. No, because it has a subtle effect. So same way our body, as we see in the third canto of Bhagavatam, our body and all our senses, subtle body is, it actually starts with creation from sound. And that's how with the holy name we are trying to break ignorance. No? With the sound vibration of the holy name, we are trying to come out of ignorance, like that. So these vibrations will affect our hearts, and hence we read and recite the songs of the great acharyas every day. Mangalarti or Narsimharti, Tulsi Arti. I was just recollecting one point from the Gajendra Moksha section where Prabhupada highlights in the purport that Indradumna Maharaj, because he was used to reciting verses, reciting spiritual songs every day. So that's why as Gajendra, when he was into ultimate crisis, he could recollect it from last life, what all he would chant for the glories of Lord. So for us also, practicing chanting this Vaishnava songs, singing Mangalarti, Narsimharti, Tulsi Arti every day. It may seem to be a monotonous thing, but because it is being repeated, every day, that's how it will save us at the time of crisis. No? Because we have been repeating it again and again, something that we have been doing in repetition will come to our rescue, like that. So Srila Prabhupada says, just by chanting Hare Krishna, everything material and spiritual will be revealed. So all our success will be achieved if we simply absorb ourselves in the spiritual sound. So 10 minutes, and today's auspicious occasion of appearance day of Sripad Ramanujacharya. So I'll share, add some pastimes. Okay. So Sripad Ramanujacharya, he appeared in a place called Sri Perumbudur, which is like 35 kilometers from Kanchipuram, which is again an hour's distance from Chennai. So he appeared to Kantimati and Keshavacharya. in the year 1017. So recently, a few years back, they had celebrated 1000th anniversary of appearance of Ramanujacharya. No? And he was named Ramanuja by his uncle, Shailapurna. And during his time, he made around 700 sannyasis, around 12,000 brahmacharis, and thousands of householders, which included very influential people, kings and many more landowners and like that. So 5 disciples of Yamunacharya, from whom he took his learnings, though he became the Acharya of the Sampradaya, but we can see the element of humility where he was ready to study from these different personalities, Goshtipurna, Kanchipurna, Mahapurna, Maladhar and Vararanga, like that. So I'll try to share some pastimes. So Ramanujacharya, when he was taking his lessons from one of his teachers, Mahapurna, so Mahapurna told him that you need to go and take initiation from one of my god brothers, Goshtipurna. So very interesting parallel where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was told by his father to take initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So I was thinking Bhaktivinoda Thakur was well qualified to give initiation to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he didn't do that. And we see how 17 times he had to approach Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and still it was a real test. So here also Ramanujacharya went to Goshtipurna almost 18 times, and Goshtipurna was not ready until and unless one pujari of Sri Ranganath, he revealed to Goshtipurna that Lord wants that you give this mantra diksha to Ramanujacharya. So we see his determination in accepting the instruction of Mahapurna and approaching Goshtipurna in a humble way and accepting the mantra diksha. One of his first sannyasi disciples was Dashrati, who was a very well-known scholar of his times. And Dashrati once happened to ask Ramanujacharya, can you please explain me the meaning of sarva dharman parityajya? So it's a bit funny. Like there are many incidences like this where devotees ask their spiritual masters or their mentors, they ask their spiritual queries, and then they are sent somewhere for 6 months of service or 1 year of service. Like in other place, there was one devotee who had asked Parashar Bhatt, who is a devotee? And then Parashar Bhatt sent him to Tirupati from Srirangam for straight 6 months. He had to serve under Anantacharya. So there's one lecture by Radhanath Swami Maharaj, no realization without service. So maybe that's the thread behind this kind of technique where you go to some of my god brother and 6 months or like, you serve under that person and that person will reveal. So Dashrati was once sent to Goshtipurna for 6 months, and 6 months he served under Goshtipurna, and then he asked his query to Goshtipurna that I have a question. Can you please tell me the understanding of sarva dharman parityajya? And Goshtipurna said that I am not the right person. Ramanujacharya is the right person who can explain you this meaning. So 6 months of his endeavors, and then he had to go back again to Ramanujacharya. Second time, when Mahapurna's daughter, Atulai, when she came with complaints that she didn't have any servant at her place and she had to do all the household work and she needed a domestic servant. So Then Ramanujacharya said, do you need a servant? So I have one. And that was Dashrati, sannyasi. So he went there and he humbly served there. And his identity was not disclosed that he is the great scholar known throughout South India. And he humbly served there. He was doing the cleaning in the kitchen. He was washing pots and all kinds of things which a cook would do. And then one day there was this scholar who came, a Mayavadi scholar who came there, and he was giving class. So while he was discussing, he happened to speak some things which were tinged with Mayavad, and Dashrati could not control himself. And then he happened to debate with this person. So as soon as he started speaking, this person said, no, wait, you happen to be a servant here, and how can you speak on this matter? You are not qualified. Then Dashrati continued to debate with him, and he defeated him. And then all these family members, the in-laws of Atulai, they were thinking, who is this person? And they asked, who are you? And he said, I am Dashrati. I am servant of Ramanujacharya. And they were put to shame, her in-laws. So they arranged for a palanquin and everything. And then once they were back, then they mentioned to Ramanujacharya that your disciple has passed the test. So you can reveal, you can answer his query, like that. So Ramanujacharya had never got an opportunity to meet Yamunacharya. However, when he was a small child, Yamunacharya had seen him once and had. And so they never met each other. But then Ramanujacharya badly wanted to connect himself to Yamunacharya. And then once when he and Mahapurna were actually going to meet Yamunacharya, that was the time he had already left his body. So when they reached there, there was this whole gathering around Yamunacharya's body. And Mahapurna just fainted, understanding that his spiritual master had left the body. So Ramanujacharya, he went ahead, and 3 fingers of Yamunacharya were closed. And he asked everyone, like, is this the normal position? 3 fingers are closed. So they said no. The disciple said no, this is not the regular thing. So then Ramanujacharya, he realized, like, there are 3 tasks which Yamunacharya has left for me. So he said that I'll preach this bhakti tradition throughout India and release people from the clutches of Maya. And as soon as he said that, 1 finger opened. And then he said, I'll write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra called the Sri Bhashya. And when he said that, the 2nd finger opened. And third, he said that Yamunacharya wanted to name one disciple in the one of his disciples as Parashar Muni, but because that didn't happen, Ramanujacharya said, in remembrance of Parashar Muni, he will name one of the Vaishnavas as Parashar. So we know ahead how one of the sons of Kuresh was named as Parashar Bhatt by Ramanujacharya. So there are 1 or 2 more pastimes, but I'll stop here. So we can pray to Sri. One last point is once one person, he approached Prabhupada, and then he said that I read your Bhagavad Gita and it exactly matches with Ramanujacharya's commentary. And Prabhupada said that if it exactly matches with Ramanujacharya's commentary, and that's the success of my writing Bhagavad Gita as it is. So the Bhagavad Gita as it is that we read is an exact representation of what Ramanujacharya wrote as his commentary to Bhagavad Gita. So I'd like to pray at the lotus feet of Ramanujacharya. He is known to do extensive preaching, even while he escaped from Srirangam while the Chola king Kulatunga was doing atrocities against Vaishnavas. Even in those 12 years of his stay at Melkote, he kind of expanded his preaching and converted all the Jains in the Karnataka area to Sri Vaishnavas. And then obviously we know the amazing places of Tirupati, Kanchipuram, Srirangam and Melkote. So these are the four main places of worship apart from 108 deva-devaṁs that they worship in the Sri Sampradaya. So I'd like to end here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.